We are going free, ladies and gentlemen, and what an exciting day it is. Let me know if you can hear me okay, because looks like we're having a little bit of a internet issue, and I want to make sure that the stream is smooth for you all. But yeah, we are having a fantastic day. We just got done with 2 hours on PWR, and of course, that is only just getting warmed up here in the white positive sphere. I see a lot of wonderful people here today. Pants Monster is here saying volume is good. Lark ascending. Evidence violates community standards. Of course, you can ask questions and participate during the stream today over on Entropy, which I will have running here in just a moment. And you can also financially gift there, and you can financially gift on Cash App. And those who financially gift, of course, will be given preference with your comments and questions. But of course, all comments and questions are read over the course of the show either way. So please do that if you are so inclined to participate. Also, I don't know if we're going to be taking calls today. Maybe not, because we're kind of in a hurry here. Ran a little bit over with the stream on PWR, and then getting ready here. I had an issue with the behemoth computer, but all things good right now. All things are amazing. All things are exciting. Over on the Discipline channel, I see the great Ezekiel is here. And Elaine Sabatino saying that she was bummed because she couldn't watch PWR today. D-Live and Radio Albion kept buffering on her wherever she was. Or perhaps that was an issue for numerous people. But how exciting is it right now to be in service to White Wellbeing with so many amazing things going on? I was actually had the speakers blasting before we got started here. I don't know if you all know the song Life is a Highway. I guess it's the original one. I think there might have been a newer version done by the anti-whites at Disney. Might be the same singer, Cochran or something like this. But anyhow, the original back in the day, fantastic, very exciting, happy song. Never Felt Guilty is here. Southern Bloom is here, and Shauna Shaw Colt is here. Hallelujah. Traversing the Divide and 4 Null. Andre Boston, 41 BMC, Irish Bear. How many people? Yiz, of course, the great Yiz is here. How many of you got extremely excited because you had eyes to see and ears to hear when you saw what Donald Trump said yesterday? We had a number of people, over 3,000 watching live, growing every single day, and 3,000 watching live over on PWR, where we had Mike Enoch as our guest, his edgy quips, and over the totality of the show. A lot of fun, hell of a lot of fun over there. Entropy looks like it's up and running now, so make sure if you want to get over there, questions on the Entropy widget can be voted on, and they'll stay. They're not deleted until you or I delete them. They won't disappear as they do on the YouTube channels and over on D-Live. Great to see everybody on D-Live that followed us on over here for the advanced placement class. I know we have just, what is it? What time is it right now then? 9 o'clock? 9:30 in the UK. So I know it's getting late over there, but thank you all for coming over. Nordic Warrior, great name. Great to see you. Jonash is here. Freya is here. So a lot of great folks over here for the advanced placement class. What an exciting thing yesterday to see this absolutely pole shifting, this continent shifting message, information, interview that Donald Trump gave yesterday. And the thing I'm going to say right off the bat, what is it about what Donald Trump said yesterday that made it a tectonic shifting moment? Something that, if you're here, and as I say, with eyes to see and ears to hear, you heard me talk about this last Sunday. You heard me talk about this the Sunday before. You heard me talk about this over the course of a TAP when we had Lovely Porridge on this past week. And then you saw it come to fruition. What more evidence do you need? What more evidence do you need? What other vehicles will you continue to put your faith in? How many miracles do you need to see before you finally believe? Here is what Trump said that is so fundamentally different. Now, while we were on PWR, we had some people who were objecting to what Trump said being relevant, being meaningful, being anything other than some baseless pandering that he won't fulfill promises, or a care that he won't care about in the future. And I actually said there, because they're getting a little intolerant, that everybody that's holding that view has a low IQ. And I said that over the course of the show. I said low intelligence quotient and also emotional quotient. and for the EQ. And the reality is that you need to be able to perceive instances in our reality in multiple areas. You need to be able to have multiple metrics by which to measure these things, perceive them for what they are from different perspectives. Not everybody has the intelligence to be able to do that. But of course, this is the advanced placement class in the white positive sphere. And this is where we are making real change in the world. And we continue to make big change, enormous change. What does it matter how many subs we have, or how many viewers we have, or how many, whatever it might be, live viewers or people viewing in replay, when we influence a societal shift on planet Earth? What does it matter? Do you not see now the proof of what we are doing, the work that we are doing here? How many times do we actually have to walk on water? Do we actually need bushes to catch on fire with unconsuming flame? This is the evidence of the work that we are doing. What did Donald Trump do that was fundamentally different yesterday than anything that has gone before? In 3 parts, his statements named a people that shall not be named, Western kind. Simultaneously, naming that people as a group. And finally, naming that people as a victim group. That was a contradictory morality that he applied to the anti-white narrative, that he applied in the face of, with disgust, to Catherine Herridge, who was interviewing him. He also applied a different morality when he went afield of what their views were, the anti-white narrative's views are on the Confederate flag and what everybody must think about it, what it must mean, the history is, etc. All anti-white narrative garbage. This, ladies and gentlemen, is in a day for the biggest of celebrations. I can see landfall in the distance. Can you? We should all rise to our feet right now to the sounds of the footfalls of the Spirit of the West, cresting the horizon in that western sunrise. If you have the eyes to see, you will know the power of what was just done. Now, it doesn't mean that Donald Trump is white positive. It doesn't mean that he's going to fulfill any promises for us. That is all totally irrelevant. That metric is useless. That metric is absolutely inferior and subject to and should be subordinate to the grander things that we are talking about here and accomplishing. He just legitimized and validated a contradictory narrative to the anti-white narrative, which is not the story of our people, but nonetheless shines a light away, a crushing light away from the anti-white narrative. And why is it happening for us now? It is happening because of the work that we are doing. It is happening because of the things we are doing for all to see, and those things we are doing behind the scenes. My God, if you can't see this, you are missing it. You are missing the forest for the trees. It is time to become more excited than you ever have in your life. A flaming sword has been raised from a stone in the earth. And a declaration is being made, ladies and gentlemen. That future is ours. We need now to work harder than we have ever done before. Harder than we have ever done before to push the story of going free, the story of Prometheus rising into the consciousness of our people. The reason why Trump is making these steps now, is saying the things that he is saying now, ultimately, we can look at particle physics for this as a great example, as a great metaphor. In particle physics, we now have something called the Higgs field. And according to this theory, which is they're working on proving, the reason why matter gets its mass, the atoms and its constituent pieces that move through the Higgs field get its mass, is by way of the influence of the Higgs field through which it moves. All things in the environment that we create, the story of our heroism, is what will influence and inform the decisions of politicians, the decisions of the boss at your work, the decisions of networks and what they are going to advertise, how they advertise, the decisions of show writers. All of those things are going to move through a field, just as matter moves through the Higgs field, as is theorized in particle physics. And if we create that field to be something other than the anti-white narrative, indeed something antithetical, something that now contradicts the anti-white narrative, all things will vector to our well-being. If you cannot get excited, it's because you are blind. You have got to step it up. We have till November. The primary thing that we have to do between now and November, ladies and gentlemen, the primary objective of the project of our lives between now and the Tuesday of November, when people vote in the United States for the president of the United States, is this. We need to get a minimum of 100,000 MAGA voters exposed to going free, to Prometheus Rising. If at bare minimum 1 in 5 take up the narrative of going, they take up the lexicon and dialectics of going free, the narrative of their lives in Prometheus Rising, and then raise the pen in their hands to write a new story of heroism for our people and their lives, a new meaning. If we do that, that is merely 20,000 amongst all of us combined, 20,000 new followers, subscribers, etc. We can do that, by God. We will do that. Secondarily, the objective, ladies and gentlemen, whether he is going to maintain or keep a promise to us, or fulfill a promise to us, fulfill a promise to the United States, or whatever it might be, is totally irrelevant. The second thing, the objective we have to do, subordinate to that first, is ensure that Donald Trump is elected president on that Tuesday. Because, ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump is not the issue. Biden and what the Democrats, both parties anti-white, Biden and what the Democrats will do to this country in the subsequent 4 years, if he's elected, will make it something completely different than you could even imagine. The Biden plan, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to cover, because a beautiful woman in our sphere has gone through the entire thing, and has pulled it out, all of the kernels out of it. And so any people in the white positive sphere who are saying now that we need to vote Biden or something like this, their heads are up their asses. And you need to tell them so, because they have no idea what will happen to this country, what will happen to them as individuals, what will happen to every one of our lives in the 4 years subsequent to Biden getting into office. It will be absolutely revolutionary. We need these 4 years to take back our destiny. Number one objective between now, right now, July 15, 2020, and the Tuesday of November, is we have to get a minimum of 100,000 MAGA voters exposed to the dialectics and lexicon of going free, to the story of our lives in contradiction to the anti-white narrative, which is Prometheus Rising, so that when they finish that story, they'll pick up the pen to write the pages of their own heroism. A new day and a new dawn for our people. My God, get out of your seats and celebrate the footfalls of the West. We are taking back our destiny, ladies and gentlemen. These are the most powerful days in your lives, and you don't even know it. But when you look back, this I can tell you, you will see it then. For all of those fools who think this is just about some politician, whatever his or her name may be, you have blinders on. Take the blinkers off. This has nothing to do with Trump himself. There is more to come. I told you on Tuesday or Sunday, and I told you the Sunday before, and I tell you this Wednesday. There is more to come. And I am not saying this as some sort of nebulous thing. It's some sort of intangible thing that maybe it will be something nebulous over here or something ambiguous over there. By God, if you were mired in that on those past Sundays, you shouldn't be mired anymore. Now is the time to celebrate. Enough with this lugubriousness. Enough with this woe is me. Enough with this Trump is like a daddy that has promised Disney World and didn't fulfill. Who gives a shit? He just gave us something that detonated the anti-white narrative, that validates and legitimizes for as many people as friends, family, and relatives as you can now reach with those words. Not just this race, not just this non-white race, but the white race. We're going to talk to you all. I'm going to take a look at your comments, your statements, your questions, so I can help explain anything that you are not understanding right now. And I'm going to take a look at some of these community comments we didn't get a chance to look at, some news, and we're going to try to make this a power-packed hour or so, and then we're going to get out of here, and I'm going to get back to work because things are happening. Wheels are turning. Things that you can't see are happening, and that means you better get started. That means you better get leafleting. You better get out on blogs. You better get out on vlogs. You better get, if you make videos, make 10 more than you normally make. If you make audio speaker type podcast, you make 10 more than you normally make. If you get into the threads and live streams of other people's shows and the like, you better get into 10 more than you normally get into, because we have between the 15th and that Tuesday in November to make this happen. You have got to be animated with the righteous passion of reclaiming our destiny. We are the heroes of this era. You are not going to get another chance. Let that fire ignite you to steps greater than you have ever endeavored. All of that talk about waiting for the balloon to go up, waiting for the flag to go up, waiting to do something heroic and die in the midst of it. Put it all in the trash. Take it all and light it on fire and use that flame to talk to the person at the bus stop where it's safe for you, to talk to the family members, to talk to the children, to talk to the youth, to make the next video that impacts, to spread going free as far and wide as we can. It is working. It is working. If I could tell you more, I would. Let's see what you all are having to say. And while we do, let's give a big thanks to Yiz right now, who got on a channel. What was this channel called? Something short, fat, otaku, or short, fat, something like this. Nearly 100,000 subs. And if you haven't seen that interview that she did there, magnificent job bringing going free to a whole group of people that you know have no interest, never heard before going free. It is time that you become as eloquent as she and Raymond Foster and Schultz and Nathan, or Slotz and Nathan and so many others who are doing magnificent work. HB 2014. I can't even name them all. Sarah Dye. Amazing. We're going to have her back on the show. Althea, who's always tweeting on the show. Evidence Violates Community Standards, who made some videos. Tall Kevin. Let's make it happen now. We have got to recapture our destiny, and your efforts are going to be joined to others you cannot see. And I told you to keep your eyes open. How many saw that tweet? And these comments I see, nobody commenting, nobody getting excited. People absolutely missing the forest for the trees. It is absolutely insane. Big round of applause for Yiz. Let's see what's over here. Tag me as Discipline with NWG on that channel. It'll light it up orange for me there. I'll be looking at it less over to my left. You are right. But I will have a peek over there over the course. I see Sox Rebellion is over there as well. So is the Reverend George is over there. Great to see you all. Beer Hall Putsch is here. Says, get some mods, mate. Are we having an issue? If we're having an issue, let me know. And we'll just start handing out. We'll start handing out some wrenches. Nathan is here. Writing, you're a hero. We're both heroes, brother. Thank you so much for that testimony. It is that kind of testimony, the kind of stuff that Nathan is doing, ladies and gentlemen, that is bringing more people to this. Saying something like, no white guilt, you're a hero, is a testimony and a service to white well-being. Because why? People who have no idea who I am, people are going to turn me on and say, this guy isn't as entertaining. He doesn't tell as many jokes. He's not a pretty young girl. He's not, I don't want to listen to him because of that. They're going to see Nathan say this guy is some kind of hero, and they're going to say, well, why? Why is he a hero? What is it about this guy that makes him special at all? And then they're going to find out about going free. And then they're going to find out that they too can be special, that they too can predict the future, that they too can change their life and the lives of folks around them. Rise of the Right is here. Southern Bloom, I mentioned earlier. Mr. is here. Tim is here. French Pete's is here. Mark is here. Ohesian Rebel is here. If we have anybody making any sort of violent sort of speech in the live chat, and alert me to it, tag me as No White Guilt on that channel. Tell me the person who's making the violent statement, copy their statement that they made, and I will just boot them in 1 second. This is my house, and we're not letting anybody get in the way of the redemption and the love and the welcoming of everybody, of all immutable characteristics, of all backgrounds, whatever they have in their closet. We all have skeletons. Everyone is welcome to serve White Wellbeing. And together we are going to recapture our destiny. HH is here. Althea is here. Writing our destiny is in our reach. Jesse is here. Go free and no white guilt. The great Raymond Foster is here. Let me make sure I didn't miss anybody's comments. Yiz says, Vince at Red Elephant specifically talked about anti-whiteism this morning on a video and pointed out the anti-white narrative. My email campaign is working. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Yiz reaching out to Vince of Red Elephants, who reaches how many MAGA voters, how many of the normal, the ordinary vagues out there, our brothers and sisters who we want to reach, normal sensibilities, reaching out with an email campaign in the way that she knows how. You can do the exact same thing. You can be a champion like he is. God bless you, and a big thank you to Red Elephants, Vince over at Red Elephants, for what he just did for the totality of our people, for the totality of our people around the world, for the totality of every citizen of the United States of America. Angharad Celtic is here. Great to see you. Jonash is asking the result of what do I think of the election in Poland, and we will probably talk about that. I have that as something I should speak to while I'm here. Jesse says hello from Nashville, Tennessee. Well, hello to you down there. Great barbecue, great music. As long as they're not singing about a white guy not being anything because he lost his girl and his dog. Elaine Sabatino is here. Great to see you, dear lady. Eternalism. I have no idea what you're talking about. Please quote the POTUS. Will somebody share essentially what Donald Trump said in the live chat? I think I might still have it pulled up. But what I said at the very beginning about what he said in summation is when Catherine Herridge, who was interviewing him, asked about another race of people. Nobody should be harmed unfairly by law enforcement. If you escalate and do not submit to law enforcement, they are within their rights to escalate. And if you escalate to the point where they have to escalate to seriously harm you, that's your fault. If they break the law to harm you, that's their fault. If they break the law and escalate for whatever reason or handle you unfairly, any person, and you die, that's their fault. She brought up an element of the anti-white narrative wherein a certain group, well, all non-white people, are subjected to mistreatment, unfair, illegal mistreatment by law enforcement, and said law enforcement because that name and that title in and of itself, just like saying Christianity, conveys Western kind. It is part and parcel of the white race. And so they are being victimized by Western kind when they say law enforcement. But when she brought up this element of the anti-white narrative, saying non-white people, according to the anti-white narrative, are the perennial victims, unfairly victimized by law enforcement, Donald Trump shot back with, so are white people victimized by law enforcement, murdered by law enforcement. So are white people. And then he said, it was like I can't remember the exact verbiage. He said, a terrible question, I think was his verbiage. Terrible question of you to ask. And then he said, more white people. And that is a statistical truth about more whites being murdered by law enforcement, shot by law enforcement, harmed by law enforcement. It is a statistical reality, but that doesn't matter. Donald Trump was not attempting to force Catherine Herridge into our story, but he did contradict the anti-white narrative. No president, no one in elected office, others who have looked at this have gone all the way back to Theodore Roosevelt before they found somebody saying something that was at least neutral. So see it within the light of what it means for us in our messaging and the shattering of the story of the anti-white narrative. And now see this on top of it. I just made a video today talking about how for many years, and some of you have been with me. I was looking, trying to dig out this morning. Didn't have the time. I got involved in other things. I was trying to dig out audio from years and years ago, where I had given speeches talking about the anti-white slur concept, racism, where I said it is losing its strength. Back then, nobody thought it was losing its strength, but I could already see. And that as it began to lose its strength to the point where the anti-whites noticed that it wasn't as effective anymore, they would begin moving the goalpost on the concept to try to recover it, to try to revive it. And I have been saying this now for the entire time I've been on YouTube. Many of you who have been here with me know this. You have heard me say this. Some of you who are here have seen me speak in person, whether it's been at a little group or a big group that you've seen me speak. Or, I mean, didn't I say this also at the PA conference, at a big group there, 200 people? But if I didn't, then I apologize. One-on-one, and you've heard me say it here online, that they would do everything they could to revive the concept of anti-white concept of racism so that they can continue to use it to bludgeon us with, because it is the central pillar of anti-whiteism. It is the central pillar. If this is knocked down, anti-whiteism is in free fall. I said they would try anything to revive it. And what have we seen? We now have seen, just in now recent memory, them moving to wed anti-white with the concept racism. And we have said repeatedly here, warning everyone, do not use anti-white racism. A very specific group of very smart, cunning, anti-white individuals have started using anti-white racism everywhere. And you don't have to be smart enough to understand what they're doing, but you do have to be smart enough to not say what they're saying, because they obviously aren't saying it for your benefit, right? You should be able to figure that out. And now we see in the video I just put out today, we now see what's also beginning to be widely used, anti-black racism. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the anti-whites admitting to every single one of you, literally taking you by the lapels and shaking you, saying, we know we're beginning to lose. We know it's beginning to fall apart for us. That's what they're doing when they say anti-black racism. That is them moving the goalpost, trying to save this concept that they rely so heavily on. They know that if they can get you and the MAGA people and the conservatives and the nationalists and the patriots and the libertarians, and if they can get all of these white people of all these groups saying anti-white racism, anti-Asian racism, anti-black racism, that monster of that anti-white concept, which is a mechanism of control, which is meant to demonize all acts for our well-being, to demonize it as the most immoral act possible. They know that if they can begin to breathe life back into this Frankenstein monster, that they will immediately turn around and sick it on you. Do not fall for this. Do not allow anybody else to fall for it. Shout it from the rooftops where you see it being used. It's not anti-white racism, anti-black racism. It's just anti-white in every case. My God, what more? I mean, they hold these banners up. Do you need them holding banners up saying, hey, folks out there who care about white well-being, we're scared to death that we're losing now. And we are now drawing back. We are now moving the goalpost. I have said to you, God, every other stream we do, that this is the evidence that they are losing. And by God, they're showing you exactly what I said. Why are predictions that come true important? And I'm going to jump over to this right now. The other thing I wanted to talk about when it comes to predictions. I got to turn my AC back on. Why are predictions that come true important? Why do we bother saying this? Because if the formula that we are sharing in Going Free, if with it you can retrodict, and if with it you can predict, retrodicting everything from the past now makes perfect sense without having to ignore, as you do with all of the other vehicles, with all of the other perspectives, with all of the other viewpoints. You know you all do it. With all of these other viewpoints, you know you have to ignore large segments of reality for it to supposedly work and make sense. But what you can't do properly with the other, and you can't just ignore with other ideologies, with other perspectives, with other viewpoints, is predict with 20/20 accuracy. And that is the thing you can do with Going Free. So it's important for us to say, when these predictions come true, exactly as we say, because that is telling you this is the ideology. These are the ideas to be applying to your life, to understand the world. My God, in so many of these religions, spiritualities, etc., whatever it is, they have these like prophets that come and say XYZ is going to happen, and then it happens, and then everybody says, well, that means the religion is true. You don't have to have faith here, for Christ's sake. We tell you this is going to happen, and then it happens days after. Jesus, what more does it take? So when we say the anti-whites are going to have to draw back when they see that they're losing, and they do it, that means you found the right place. How about this, ladies and gentlemen? There were people in the white positive sphere, and I might be on the verge here of alarming some, of annoying some, of frustrating some, of embarrassing some. And if that's the case, you should go ahead and feel it, go ahead and experience it, and then move through it like an adult, and then come to Going Free in toto. Give up all of the other shit and come to Going Free in toto. There were people all over the white positive sphere at the beginning of the pandemic, which of course we're going to say here that for YouTube purposes, that everything that the World Health Organization says is the truth. If we say anything that remotely seems like we are contradicting it, then we actually mean that we agree with the WHO. We just haven't seen their documents yet. So go to that organization to get the truth. Having said that, there were people, and I want you to reflect on what yours truly said. And remember, I'm not claiming to be descended from heaven. There's nothing numinous about me. There's a lens that I'm using, a science, because this is demonstrable. We have applied what Francis Bacon made real, informed by Aristotle, the scientific method, to decades of service to white well-being. Other groups talking about science, bullshit. This is decades of application And then when things work, they stay. And yes, many of these ideas I came up with, big deal. And many of them I adopted from others, as we just had one adopted from Spencer the First, a new MP we adopted. This idea that, oh, at least I still have my works.
Agenda control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
And that is how we access a completely different network. That's what I think of you, anti-whites. That is what I think of you. Very peculiar shutdown, and I have a backup. That is what I think of you, anti-whites. How do you like that? How do you like that, bastards? That's what happens. All right, you all will have to tell me. I saw the screen glitch, so I may have stopped in time. So you all will have to tell me exactly where you all stopped seeing me, so that I know that it was where I was where I left off. I am just finishing up the changes I had to make for the other network. so that we could keep running. I knew something like that might happen, especially on a day of such success. So I was ready. Yeah, you SOBs, find the network I'm on right now. Go ahead. Try to even find it. You have to shut down the entire area. You realize that, right? Go ahead. Search for it. You cannot stop us. See, some I won't say more. Let's see. Where did you all? I think I stopped. Fernald says you were talking about a new MP that we adopted. Right. That Spencer the First mentioned. And that was this, at least we have our guns, MP. Fantastic. So the reason why, so in other words, to finish up what I was saying, the reason why being able to retrodict and predict is so relevant is because by the proof of predictions coming true, you know you're in the right place. You know you have the right lens to see the world. This lens is not fantastic. It doesn't work because there's something special or numinous about me. It is special because we have spent decades perfecting it. This is science. This is what Francis Bacon, informed by Aristotle in the scientific method, gave us, applied to decades of doing the right thing that works for our people, for our well-being. If anything is scientific, it's this. All of the other stuff that folks recently in a giant Hindenburg-style crash were saying solution scientific was hogwash. Nothing proven there. That was all theory. We have proof of concept again and again here. And so we're going to talk now about one other set of predictions that I was saying is going to upset some people. It's going to unnerve some people. And that's fine. Be an adult, move through it, and then get 100% in toto to going free. And forget about everything else that you've been wasting your time on, because we don't have any more time to waste. So just wrapping up the things that we did right now to make sure that the anti-whites talk about another prediction coming true. Find the network. Anti-whites. So at the beginning of this pandemic, and of course, everything we say about the pandemic, we submit ourselves to whatever the truths are of the WHO. Whatever the WHO says is the truth. Look there for all of your information, as you know, especially if you like to watch this show on YouTube. Look to the WHO for all the information you need on the pandemic. At the beginning of the pandemic, there were people in this sphere. And so there are a couple elements there, and people in the white positive sphere in general. There are a couple elements here that we absolutely need to touch upon. And that is number one. There were people in the white positive sphere that said, and you all will remember this, I'm not going to name names, I don't want to embarrass anybody, that whole cities, whole towns were going to be quarantined. You won't be allowed to leave, they said. Your town, your city, millions and millions, worse than China. Barricades and military law enforcement personnel surrounding the cities that they quarantined. Do you remember this? I want you to painfully remember it, especially those out there who believed it. Do you remember that there were those in the white positive sphere who said that not only would the borders be closed in the United States to immigrants, to border crossers coming into the United States, but some of these people very loudly, very convincingly, with ample amounts of conviction, said not only will the borders be closed, but it's going to be so bad that the Democrats are going to demand that the borders are closed. That's how bad it's going to be in the United States. Do you all remember that? Do you all remember what yours truly said? Again, nothing special about me, understanding human nature. and going free. I said no. With some of these people were, I wanted to be nice to them. I didn't want to embarrass them, and that's why I'm not going to say their names now. But I said, well, we'll keep our eyes open, that sort of thing. But I said, no cities are going to be closed. No border is going to get closed. Why? Because it doesn't serve anti-whiteism. If you understand anti-whiteism, if you understand going free, you'll understand how I was able to see and say those things. Why I wasn't like these others making these sort of histrionic statements. But what ended up happening? What ended up happening was exactly what I warned against. I said, if you're in the chat now and you remember these shows, then say so. And if you remember them, you can, where exactly they were, you can go back and grab them and make videos. Please do. Where I said, if people believe this, they're going to end up in this endless pursuit. People in our sphere believe this. They're going to end up in this endless pursuit of hoarding food, buying filtration devices. How many of you out there bought 2 and 3 more refrigerators and freezers? Now, I'm not saying you should feel a little embarrassed, but you're an adult. And so you can say, wow, those other folks really misled me. I said what we should be doing is you should be using all of this time while you're home, spreading going free. How many did that? How many instead, rather than, and you remember you had some people in the white positive sphere that said, oh, don't pass out leaflets because you'll get charged with terrorism. Remember that garbage? And I said, pass them out where it is safe to pass out. And as always, if you're worried about law enforcement or something like this, or some sort of charge of that nature, then just do it in the middle of the night. I've handed out many thousands of leaflets without ever once being arrested for it. You just have to have more brains than a donkey. So I said, right now, our people are afraid. Right now, they're wondering what in the world is going on. And I said, remember everyone, we should be out there telling our brothers and sisters that this is caused by anti-whiteism. And of course, I lauded and commended every one of you who went out there and did that. But we all should have been doing it. We all weren't doing it. Because instead of using every one of those minutes as productive minutes, either making videos or every one of those minutes where we didn't have to go to work as productive minutes, when the soil was ripe to get out there, distributing leaflets, putting up pamphlets, putting up banners, getting into live chats, getting into threads of videos, getting on to podcasts and the like, spreading going free. Every one of those minutes should have been used. And now the majority are back at work. And then what else happened? The government gave you some of your money that they stole from you back. Thousands of dollars. And what did you do with the thousands of dollars and savings that you had set aside? You listened to some dipshits in the white positive sphere, and you went out and bought thousands of dollars worth of freezers and meat and toilet paper. You didn't do squat. Now you have freezers you don't have room for, food that will go bad, toilet paper for the next 6 years. You did nothing when the time was right. So you blame yourself for being blinded to reality by these misleaders who led you down these paths of stupidity. And you look back on those eras and you said, who would have been the right person to listen to? And now you never make that mistake again. How many lives could you have saved? How many eyes are open? If you had instead used all of that free time that you had of not being at work. God damn every one of those bastards that said this. And damn all of you who listen to them instead of what we're saying here. We don't have time for this kind of childish, stupid shit. And now we're hearing all of this same, I'm seeing the same sort of memes go around about, for decades I've seen this garbage. For decades. You need to make the most of your time in spreading going free to our vagues of brothers and sisters out there. You want something to spend your money on? If you have a brain cell in your body, it better not be on another freezer. It better not be on another $400 worth of meat. It better not be on another $1,500 water filtration device. It better not be on another 6 months worth of MREs. It better not be on another $5,000 worth of firearms and ammunition. It better be instead on helping to change the societal context in which we live. All of those other things, ladies and gentlemen, are manifestations of the white noir in you. This meme pathogen born, this hyper individualism that says, oh, I'll be able to save my ass and my relatives, maybe my immediate family. I got bigger tires on my truck. I bought a new winch in case I ever get stuck somewhere. You know what they'll do with your winch? They'll put you and your wife attached to it and the nearest tree and rip your bodies apart. Because you're not going to be able to use these things in a world where Western civilization has fallen. We don't have time for stupidity. We don't have time for dimwits or for people who want to elevate their own personal stature and who want to get you to look at them and listen to them by histrionic claims about whole cities getting shut down. Christ's sake, New York City, with all of the people suffering from the pandemic there, dying everywhere, instead of everything getting quarantined and the embankments being built on the highways and the military boxing everybody in, instead of that, they said, everybody please leave. Go ahead. New Yorkers were showing up all over the country. States were putting in rules saying, well, if you came from New York, we'd like you to get tested for the pandemic. None of that garbage came true. It was all childish fantasies. Feel embarrassed if you listen to it. Feel ashamed. I don't give a damn. Because we don't have the time for you to make stupid decisions anymore. We have the time for you to be an adult and say, you screwed up. You wasted your time and your talent. How many days, how many hours did you waste when you didn't have to work? You could have spent 8 hours a day serving White Wellbeing. And some of you did. And to every single one of you, you will be remembered for the heroes you were. There's a footprint of your activity over the course of the past months. But for the rest of you who are in the chats everywhere saying, oh, they're going to come and stick a needle into your brain any minute now. You better buy more food. You better buy more hamburger buns. Here's how you freeze the hamburger buns. You need to feel embarrassed. Maybe go away for a couple days if that's what it takes. And then come back renewed and invigorated and ready to make adult decisions from here for the rest of your life. Because if we don't change the context, there aren't enough. If we don't change the societal context, there aren't enough water filtration devices, dumbass. There aren't enough maps that you can draw little lines on your counties and say, these are our counties now. And then here's a map we had Billy make up and a little flag that Joey invented. There isn't enough of that. There aren't enough hamburger buns. There aren't enough rolls of toilet paper. There aren't enough freezers. There aren't enough generators, and there aren't enough containers big enough of different propellants to propel your generators for long enough. There isn't enough ammo to save your asses. The only thing that's going to change is to change the context in which we live. And if you're still confused, you can go back to the beginning of this stream where I was talking about particle physics and the His field, and you can give it a go there. And last thing I'll say on that is thank you to every single one of you who did the right thing, who heard what these other misleaders, misrulers had to say, and you said, boy, that sounds pretty scary. People are giving them credence. What is those who are going free? What do they have to say? Oh, they say none of that shit's going to happen. That it's actually childish, and that we should be using this time to spread going free, to tell our brothers and sisters, hey, the reason why your world is falling apart is anti-whiteism. So I'm going to do that instead. I'm not going to worry. You know how much I did, ladies and gentlemen? Nothing. If you have at absolute maximum 3 months of what you will need to feed yourself, not to live high on the hog, 3 months of whatever you need to feed and water yourself, and then you have the tools of defense, that is all you could ever hope to be able to use. Because if it goes beyond that, they're coming for you. So anything you do beyond that is just an elaborate mausoleum for your ass. That's what I said. I did nothing. I had no fear that society was going to collapse and there wasn't going to be anything left. I dedicated every minute of my day and days and time to going free. And for those of you who are going to try to defend your bad decision, and we all make mistakes, I most of all among you, what sets me apart and those others who do like I do apart is we say, oh, that was a mistake. I won't do that again. For those of the rest of you who are going to say, well, it didn't happen this time, but next time, get lost. You're too dumb to be convinced of the truth in your face. So just get lost. I've dealt with these people for decades now. I'm sick of talking to you. I'm sick of your stupidity. I'm sick of your heads up your asses. Get lost. No more of these illogical fantasies. We've got to get real and get now and start reclaiming our destiny while there's time. Everybody else can be shown the door. Now we'll see what you all are saying. Anti-white still scrambling. Where's that other connection? How is he making it happening? How's he making it happen? Thank you all. Justin, Mick Culture, and everybody else who gave me the info about where I thought it shut down. Jesse says, this is the time we go free. There's a thing, quote, the law of unintended consequences. Sooner or later, a pendulum reaches its arc and starts to swing back in the other direction. I'm going to tell you something, Jesse. There's some general truth to that, but I'm going to tell you something else. Many of you, and I want you all who have the ears to hear, the eyes to see. And I see the great Brand Danger here. He's one of those who's going to have the ears to hear and the eyes to see. There are going to be things that happen that many of you are going to think, this is how a pendulum swings back by way of nature, by way of fact, by way of some ethereal thing. And I'm going to tell you this, there are hands swinging it back the other direction. You just don't see them. If you have the eyes and the ears to hear what is going on, I'm not going to say more, what is going on, you'll know who to start working for and with. IC Art says, help me successfully squash an anti-white, no white guilt, helped me successfully squash an anti-white on Twitter who tried to get me canceled. Thank you. Well, thank you very much. I'll just say this, IC Art, I believe that you are one of those folks who had what we call blind sight. You already had some idea what was going on in the world. Now you've come to going free. That's a great talent to have, and I've no doubt you're going to be soaring to the top. One of the words we don't use is canceled, white erased. They wanted to get you white erased. That is their word to diminish. That's an anti-white word to diminish white erasure, what they're doing to you, to your life, etc. They want you to be without food. They want you to be without cars. They want you to be without mortgage. They want you to be without a place to live. They want you in a box and having zero potential. to have any joy or influence or effect on your life, and in the end, white flighting yourself out of this world with suicide. Thank you so much. And in fact, we have Art is Life. I'm going to read it right now. This wonderful, wonderful woman wrote to me. And this brand new. She has blind sight. She's just getting started. She has some ideas of what's going on in the world. Very few people start off that way. Most people who come to Going Free are blind, as the saying goes, blind as a bat. Bats actually see quite well, but they are blind as a mole rat. Art is Life, had blind sight, had talent, innate instinct, now going free. Writing here, I wanted to thank you, Jason. I was able to put into practice the skills you have taught through your YouTube videos and books. I am a former teacher who advocates for school choice, something that the anti-whites disagree with, and sees as what they call, the anti-whites, as a Republican ploy to oppress non-white people. I started my support on a pro-school choice Twitter account for the federal government, for federal government funding homeschooling in the fall. And by the way, God bless you for that. You absolutely, if you're a white person, have to get your child out of public school, out of private school. They are poisoning them. They are poisoning them. They are poisoning them. Even before the new curricula, the new anti-white curricula, which we said, ladies and gentlemen, before everyone else was going to go, and the concept that we talk about here, and we're going to keep pointing this out because these predictions come true, are more testimonies to the success of this lens. Again, not yours truly, the lens. We said that there was going to be heightened and, in fact, radicalized far more than before this harmonizing of the multiracialism, harmonizing the diversity. So there's going to be more anti-white programs. And what do we see now? Hearing from superintendents of counties in education, principals, teachers, public and private, non-Christian and Christian schools coming out saying this is the end of education. They have pushed reading, writing, and arithmetic absolutely back even further to almost nothing. It's all about anti-whiteism now. Even before that happened, as soon as the children were sent home because of the pandemic, mothers were writing us because they had to homeschool. They had to finally look at their children's textbooks. And we had a mother write us with this image. These are the pages that she had to tear out of one textbook for one of her children. All of those pages were anti-white out of one textbook. So this is what I See Art is talking about. God bless you for bringing this to our people and putting your name on file that you want this money for homeschooling. And writing here, many are choosing not to send their children back to school due to the virus. Suddenly, I had backlash from several people, all who seemed to lean anti-white. One even pursued my tweets and found that I subbed to American Renaissance and that I advocate for white well-being. Beautiful use of our terms, dear lady. He took screenshots and denounced me as this is an anti-white slur, a heretic. He used the word white supremacist, denounced her as a heretic. Apparently, he thought that would white erase me. But there were those who supported me. I like to believe I left the conversation with my dignity intact, while also shining a light on my opponent's character. I am learning to use the vocabulary and strategy as being unapologetic in my advocacy for white well-being. I can do this without sounding crass or overly emotional, which can be difficult to do as a female. I will get better at this. Listen to that humility, being humble. That's the kind of people I can grow. I can do better. I say that, ladies and gentlemen, to myself every single day. I will get better at this. I am white. I advocate for white well-being, and this does not mean any of what the anti-whites say it means. I am going free. God bless you. She writes finally, most sincere thanks. Thank you so much, dear lady, showing up today with this absolutely magnificent testimony. How many other teachers are going to hear this testimony, or those who are in some way connected in the educational field, and are going to say, why didn't I have as much intestinal fortitude, as much courage as this lady right here? Well, and this, especially for men, you can get out there and you can do so in an anonymous way, advocate for white well-being. You can get, and there are plenty of ways to do this. You can ask in the chat, how can I anonymously create an account and advocate for white well-being in my community? You can use a VPN. You can make new accounts. Always remember to use the same VPN when you make the new account. You can get on these message boards and you can begin advocating. And if you do so with the dialectics and lexicon that we teach in Going Free, you are going to be far stronger. It's going to be far harder to punish you than if you appear as the ne'er-do-well in the anti-white narrative. You'll have no chance if you're called before the anti-white tribunals there, if you speak as the bad guy in their story. Be the hero in our story, as this young lady did. Thank you so much for your testimony. And we'll see what else is being said here. We'll take a look for the financial gifts, and we're going to quickly go through this because we got so much to do. Wild Fang says he bought 2 more cans of soup than usual because of those people. Not very moved by all of these histrionic claims of the end of the world. Wild Fang says, remember your Southern Baptist roots and unleash the fire, Jason. Well, I did start off, and I attended mostly Southern Baptist churches, but I never saw the wild, passionate fire of any Southern Baptist preacher. That fire was long since extinguished by anti-whiteism. By the time I got to church, they had the ice bath poured over their fire, so that not only did the fire go out, but everything on them shrank. And trust me, we have the opposite of shrinkage. We are getting the metaphorical flame that we are building here and Going Free has gotten far bigger. Eternalism is here. The great Fraulein Dresden is here, always doing things for our people in the background. A big salute for her. Mrs. Jess Horse, always doing things for our people in the background. A big salute for her. Let's go through here and see what else I have. If there are anybody talking about violence in the live chat, you have to stop. People tag me with what they're saying, and I will just immediately delete those people. You can DM me on Twitter and ask to be reinstated if you just said something stupid. No violence. We want the opposite of violence. This is love and redemption. Jonas says, don't forget about the Polish elections. Let's talk about the Polish elections really quickly. What happened when we had months ago, the great Marcia is here. Hello to you, dear lady. Jennifer P is here, and Nancy, Drew, wonderful people. Great to see you. Eternal Entropy, hello to you. We had a work set of visas that were in relationship created with Poland. How long ago was that? Can somebody look that up? Was that not quite 6 months ago? And I said, everybody was thinking, oh, this is a good thing because Polish people will be able to come over here. And I said, no, it's a bad thing because now American business owners that aren't American by biospirit, paper Americans, are going to be heading over to Poland and starting businesses and interfering in their elections. And what ended up happening this last election in Poland? What's considered the nationalist and what I think is the anti-whites use as a defamatory term, populists barely won the election. Did they not? Jonas and everybody, did they not barely win the election this time? This is because, just as I said, financial interests, paper American business owners are heading over to Poland, investing in businesses to such a degree that they can the business owners, the people with the money call the tune. He who's paying the piper calls the tune. The boss tells you what's going to happen at your business. Too many of you still believe this old idea. We have to break this inertia off right now, that there was some march through the institutions. Too many people say it, just echoing it, because smart people from the past who were beguiled by this anti-white, this an MP is what it is, that there was a march through there was no march through any institutions. They didn't march their way up, the anti-whites. They took over from the top down. It was all financial. And then they restaffed those businesses. That's why, to the average intellect, or maybe a little smarter than average, it looked like it was a march up. But it was no such thing. So these business entities, investors, owners, people wanting to start businesses with great sums of money, no doubt that there were programs that we don't even know about right now. Of course, you have to check with CNN if it's true, because what I'm about to say is obviously going to be false. Programs where taxpayer dollars were given to paper Americans to go over to Poland to start businesses. So you get that nice little 10 million, 20 million, or whatever it might be. You head over to Poland, where that is the equivalent of 300 million, and then you start the department store, you start the grocery store. Always starting in these places where the people need the things. They can't go without them. Food, electricity, anything that they can get their hands into that people need. And then, of course, into the media institutions, controlling the media. And what do we see happening in Poland? The populists, didn't they barely just win? My prediction is this, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, Jonasz says, yep, Duda won with 51% of the vote. My prediction now is this. If we do not get more of our brothers and sisters in Poland going free, the curative contagion to anti-whiteism, if we don't get them going free, Poland will fall to the anti-whites. Without question. Without question. All of that nationalism, all of those marches in the street, all of that patriotism for the Polish country, the Polish people, the Polish history, all of that will be defeated by the psychological warfare of anti-whiteism. Why? Because it's all been defeated before. So if the people there don't have the psychological defense for the psychological warfare, their flags, their torches, their parades, their marches, their rallies won't mean squat. Regrettably, I can't just go to Poland and say, all right, I'm just going to go to Poland and I'm going to go speak somewhere, because people like Duda and others in that party, they don't know who I am. I'm some American guy showing up that's clean cut. And for all they know, I'm coming there as a subversive agent from the United States. And they'll end up having me jailed. They'll end up banning me from the country, because they won't know I'm there for their good. They won't know that if their constituencies learn to go free, that they then will be able to resist the anti-whiteism that is going to be inflicted on them by these business interests that are flowing into Poland right now. It's happening right now. So they'll take all of that patriotism, and they're brilliant, they're conniving, they're underhanded members of anti-whiteism are going to say, all right, where are the fissures in these different constituencies that are patriotic? We know some care more about this particular event in history. Some care more about that one. We'll divide them. Some care more for this part of Poland than that part of Poland. The Polish people think that these people are maybe a little bit more Polish than those people are Polish because they were maybe here longer. Their tribe is a little different, or their section or their accent is a little different. We'll divide them from each other. We'll bring in the morale. We'll bring in other groups of people. We'll ply on their sentimentality. They'll use all of these things. And if they don't have the psychological defense for that psychological warfare, all of those torches that they carry will set their Polish flags on fire. Rest assured. And in years, they'll be pulling down the statues of Polish heroes. Bookmark that, ladies and gentlemen, so that if we see going free in Poland and we see the resistance of those people who are going free to that anti-whiteism, the consternation of the anti-whites over there, the growth of the nationalists, the patriots, now made immune to anti-whiteism, then we can say that that going free has protected the Polish from what is infiltrated and destroying the rest of the world. If instead we do not get enough of the Polish people going free, our brothers and sisters over there, and we see indeed exactly what I just outlined, then have this cut out so that we can go to everybody in the white positive sphere and said, boy, this precise thing was predicted on Going Free on a Wednesday, July 15. Köhne says, Jonas, you should offer to translate No White Guilt's books to Polish. All right, let's see what else you all have to say. All right, we're just beyond an hour now. And I want to catch as many folks as we can. Okay. Looks like we're good. Looks like we have covered most of that. Let me jump over here to entropy. And we have For Prosperity, financially gifting 5 Canadian dollars. Thank you, my brother. And it's the only financial gift today. Thank you on entropy. Thank you. In my city in Canada, there are a lot of, and he properly puts it in quotes, hate crimes, like poorly spray painted symbols. Yes, we've had that. Now, what you need to do for prosperity, I'm going to help you right now. Those are hate hoaxes. Use that meme curative, MC, hate hoaxes. Use that everywhere when you talk about this. Hate hoaxes. There are a lot of premises that come into play that create a thought chain for you to win every one of those conversations by calling them hate hoaxes. So there are a lot of hate hoaxes in the area you live in, Canada, where there is a lot of a media. You say anti-racist, use anti-white, outrage, and mobilization of police, hate hoax units. So in my city in Canada, there are a lot of hate hoaxes where there is a lot of media anti-white outrage and mobilization of police hate hoax units, but no perpetrators ever found. 2 in the last week. It is tiresome. Thank you for that information. Thank you for the financial gift to White Wellbeing. And thank you for coming over, going free, serving White Wellbeing, getting on board, and making a change and a difference in the world. God bless you for that, brother. Let me take a quick look over here at, just make sure we don't have anything over here. And we're going to keep rolling. "41 BMC, a great hero and participant in service to White Wellbeing, financially gifting $20 over on Cash App. And writing here for White Wellbeing and giving a thumbs up. Thumbs up back to you, brother. Thank you for everything you are doing. 41 BMC is going to be distributing leaflets, and he will be back to us, and we'll see about if there are stories and the like. A great hero going free. We love you, brother. And another great hero going free, Nathan, over here on Cash App, $10 financial gift. Thank you, my dear brother, for the basket. Preach it, brother. And some applause. Thank you so much for that, Nathan. A great hero, making videos, going out into the community, getting the verbiage of no white guilt into our people's mouths so that if they speak it, they can think it. If they can think it, then they can go free of anti-whiteism. God bless you, brother, for those critical duties to our people. I will have another look over here, just make sure that everything is nice and clean. And we will see about some other comments, and we're going to move quickly now as we're running short on time. We have people, and I'm still waiting for, do you speak Swedish? If you do, direct message me, and I will share with you. We have fantastic people who are going free in Sweden. Oh, I've been recently written by people in the country of Georgia, numerous people in the country of Sweden, numerous people in the country of Finland, numerous people in the country of Australia, several others. And we have folks who got to me from Sweden, and they've put together a beautiful flyer that they want to distribute, and they want my blessing. I'm going to give the blessing. I do want somebody to have a quick look at it before I share it with you all, so that I'm just sure that even though they're honest, if anti-whites know that I'm always going to do this with a language I don't speak, then they won't bother to try to sneak in a leaflet that actually says something horrible that I would end up showing that maybe we would just have a laugh at the losers for. Promethean promulgation over here in the question widget says, is there any subject we should not mix with going free in conversation other than the obvious antagonists, of course? Any specific subjects? Any subject that is associated with the antagonist in the anti-white narrative. And we're all going to know really what those are, because that is where we ended up looking the moment after we had that feeling and that commitment of purest heart to sacrifice ourselves for our people. And then we looked out at the world. Where should we go? And we end up looking at the anti-white narratives, ne'er-do-well, and we say, oh, that's what they're supposed to talk like, look like, believe, say, etc. All of that, no. Also, don't mix any wild conspiracy theories with going free. Now, if you're talking to someone who is a believer of wild conspiracies, you can touch base with them in just being a thinking person who is trying to share a message, trying to bring somebody over to something that's going to be helpful to them. If they're really into some sort of conspiracy theory, you could say to them in the conversation, well, maybe there's some truth to that, but you should really look into going free, because this is going to, if there's any truth to that, going free is going to make it better. If there's any truth to that, going free is going to prevent it. If there's any truth to that, going free is going to obviate all of the horrible things that you're worried about when it comes to that conspiracy theory. So don't pair anything with it, but you can use it the way I just said. Brilliant question. Thank you. Promethean Promulgation, doing great work. In fact, I think it was HB who let me know that, I think it's you, Promethean Promulgation, who's taking HB's clips on Twitter and then sharing them all over. A magnificent thing. This is how we multiply the effects. I give an oration. It is at whatever influence or significance it is. Somebody like HB or somebody, so many now are doing this. Budapest Babe is doing it. Final Blossom is doing it. So many folks are taking these. Watch Rider, I think, has done it. I don't know if Full Moon Ancestry has, but of course we know that Foster has. They take some verbiage or an oration I give, they magnify it, they make it that much more powerful, they reach more people, and then some of you are just taking their creations and then sharing it. We need to be doing that, because that is how we are going to multiply the effect that we have within our spheres of influence. Yonash has a question over here. I answered it. Thank you for that. Vokish Warrior has, thank you for providing. Actually, I think I lost the links from earlier when we lost. Looks like we did. So these are the links that he asked me last on Ramsey Paul Twitter. So thank you for providing me again. We have Ramsey Paul with a Twitter. He was asking me about Ramsey Paul last week. And Paul writes, right. I'm not gonna read the individual names of these different groups. I'm just gonna say non-whites. So he says the names of several non-white groups. Non-white people all have the right to have a positive collective identity, but white people do not. We can only have a collective identity when it is expressed in a negative fashion. And then he says, foxtrot that, those days are over. That's a fantastic tweet right there. If you had another question about it, if you're just, what's my impression on that tweet? That's a fantastic tweet. What Ramsey Paul wrote there. And then there was another one. he writes, Ramsey Paul, the phrase hashtag white privilege. Now, this is an anti-white concept. It is a meme pathogen. Meme pathogen. Don't call it, ladies and gentlemen, a phrase. Don't call it just a concept. When you're talking with people, you say, look, this is an MP. It is a meme pathogen. People, when they hear pathogen, they're immediately going to identify it as what? So it's not innocuous. And then you can say that you understand a concept, or you can just leave it at pathogen if they understand meme already. And then he writes, is a blood libel. Now, I'm going to stop right there. And we had, I think it was with Slots, a conversation about the use of blood libel. I don't like blood saying that it's blood, saying what Ramsey is saying here. White privilege is a blood libel. Let me read the whole tweet. He says that it's a blood libel and an act of violence against our people. We have the right of self-defense. He writes against when. Now, first of all, do not ever talk about how you're going to defend yourself, and these are the tools you have for self-defense. You can say, look, if somebody is going to attack us, by all means, physically attack you, defend yourself. Don't say you have a certain tool. Don't say, this is how bad I will hurt the people that harm me. Don't collectivize it. Don't do that in your conversations here and elsewhere, because then it sounds too much like the anti-white narrative. Sounds like you're setting up in the anti-white narrative some specific type of a war that immediately, to whom? Doesn't matter to us what vague or what anti-whites think, but what vagues think, the people you're trying to persuade. We don't want them to instantly think, you're talking about a war that has another word in front of it, and that means everything else, that it's in the anti-white narrative, that you want to exterminate people, and do not elicit that characterization in those you're trying to bring over. You can say, if somebody physically attacks me, I will defend myself. If somebody attacks my wife or my children, I will defend them. Of course, everybody knows that's totally acceptable. Do not talk about the weapons, how bad it will be. Don't collectivize it. So that's an error that Ramsey Paul is making here. But I think the bigger error is when he says that a specific concept is blood libel, because by saying so, you are ceding the premise to the anti-white, that whatever happened in the past is in the anti-white narrative, and I am agreeing to that. Bravo, Sierra. We don't agree to anything in the anti-white narrative. There can't be any blood libel, because our people, we are not guilty for something that is fabricated from the past, and we are not guilty for something that some maybe selfish or psychopathic or whatever it might have been white individual may have done in the past. So there's no connection. No connection. And you're seeding that with that statement. So this one I don't like. The first one I like. Non-white people have the right to have a positive collective identity. They absolutely do, and they should. We can only have, but here's where I will point this out. He is still in the anti-white narrative. So I'll add a little bit of criticism to this. And why do I do it? Not because I'm trying to knock Paul down at all, but because I'm trying to help us all to grow in going free, including Paul. So then he says, we can have a collective identity when it is expressed in a negative fashion. So what he's saying there is he's inside the anti-white narrative. This is when these meme pathogens we talk about, when people say, and they try to say it as, they're making a joke out of it, like, oh, we are and then fill in some horrible name. Your brain still hears, and you all will know as soon as I say this, still sees a tree when the word tree is said. So you cannot say this statement without saying in your subconscious mind that there's something negative about our identity. Don't ever be in the anti-white narrative. And that's what he does there. And when he says, foxtrot that, those days are over, it is a rebellious statement taking place inside the anti-white narrative. You need to get out of the anti-white narrative, folks. Say the same statement outside of the anti-white narrative. The anti-whites are lying bastards. Their goal is to harm Western kind and Western civilization. They make up lies to achieve that goal, lies that persuade us to lower our defenses. That is why they come up with these crazy stories about invisible things now that harm non-white people and invisible things from the past or connections to the past. It's all lies. You never go into their story, you stay in ours. And we've had wonderful people like Slots who have waged fantastic conversations. We've shared about going free with folks online, staying in our story, despite the efforts of the anti-whites to bring them out. So let's see what else we have here. I just want to celebrate a 9-year-old girl in our community. Really quickly, round of applause for this lovely little angel who said to her mother, it's a little girl, 9 years old, going free, mother teaching the daughter about white well-being. And she said to her mother that she feels really sad for all of the white children out there that see these anti-white signs. And you know what those signs are when you see them in the world. They say one thing that is a pretext to arrive at harming us. That's how you know that it's an anti-white sign. Okay? For the future, that's how you know. You don't say it's a this. You don't read what they wrote on the sign. You just say there's another anti-white sign. A pretext written on a sign to arrive at a conclusion that allows anti-whites to victimize us is anti-white. Little girl, 9 years old, can do it. So can you. She said to her mother, she feels really bad that there's so many white children just like her sitting in the back seat of the car watching the signs go by that are anti-white, and they don't have a mother and father there to tell them about what those signs really mean so that she and can protect, or those little children can protect themselves in the world. God bless that little angel. Thank her for having, and what an effect going free has on our children, ladies and gentlemen, to see our community, to see our people as a collective all around the world, and then to have pity and sympathy for those, to identify with our brothers and sisters. You didn't do it when you were young. Most of you didn't do it. And neither was I taught to do that. So God bless this little girl and all the white children that are learning to think this way, because it's going to mean a much better future. What kind of mother will she make to heroic sons and daughters? I'm going to jump over. Rock Dad says all over Facebook and YouTube are videos of non-white people, anti-white non-white people, beating up white people. Yet the narrative the media presents, the anti-white media presents us with, is that non-white males are not able to leave their homes because of police brutality. It's like living in the Twilight Zone. Exactly, Rock Dad, a great champion in our community. And he's pointing out there what we talk about, ladies and gentlemen, that this gaslighting, where you actually live in the world as a white person, where you are sacrificed so that others can live better at your expense, but you have to constantly pretend that the reverse is true. That while you sit at home, unable to collect unemployment, not able to get the job you want, or to get the promotion, or to get in the school you want, you have to pretend at the same time, the anti-whites are telling this to you, that you are some kind of monstrous person, and you have all the benefits, and you are in power in the world. That is a monstrous thing, drives so many of our young people crazy, and that's why many of them are white flighting into suicide. And that is what we have to intervene on. Bonnie Blue Lass, a great participant. It takes me all week to listen to these streams. Every day the comments change. So many comments disappear. They are comments containing absolutely nothing offensive. Things like, quote, daughter of Albion is a quintessential English lady. I'm willing to bet that Jason actually has 5 times the number of subscribers, views, and comments. Thank you so much. That's absolutely the case. They do. And there's nothing I can do. I'm not doing this on my end. I'm doing everything I can to capture all of the comments and to verify them as legitimate. And when they disappear for you, they're disappeared for me. Bonnie Blue Lass continues, I don't know who those propertarians are. This is a comment relative to past 2 weeks. I don't know what their document says. I had no idea they were having an event. I'm 100% going free all day, all in. I don't follow most people in the rest of this sphere. Why bother? Jason streams 10 plus hours a week. I also get extra white pills from other people who are going free and doing great work for white well-being. Going free is all caps now, all I need. God bless you, dear lady, for that magnificent testimony. This is a very sweet woman, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Beautiful lady, young lady. We have, let me see, Daffelbath writes here, the story about the woman who was murdered for saying that all lives matter has me furious. Some piece of disgusting trash on Twitter commented on the incident and said it should, quote, be a lesson for her 3-year-old son on what you shouldn't say. There's a special place in hell for people like that. I wish I had more time. I would get furious with you about that and talk at length about that. That is because of the dehumanization, ladies and gentlemen. Don't look at comments like this, and don't let vagues in your personal lives tell you, oh, that's just some crazy person living out on the fringe. That is the typical anti-white now. Driving the Audi down your street, driving the BMW, driving the truck down your street. These are the typical anti-whites now, because the white race has been so dehumanized that kind of a statement is totally okay to make. Joel writes here, Jason's work will create a butterfly effect. Quote, the term closely associated with the work of Edward Lorenz is derived from the metaphorical example of the details of a tornado. The exact time of formation, the exact path taken, being influenced by minor perturbations, such as the flapping of wings of a distant butterfly several weeks earlier. Thank you very much for that, Joel. We hope that, yes, indeed, all of this will have a butterfly effect. All that we do here, all of these we have a whole family of people now. Spencer the First, Budapest Babe, Anglo America, Syrup, and Sarah Dye, and Tall Kevin, and so many others. A whole family coming together that are forming our own gravity. People coming in, people getting stronger, creating that gravitational pull, and we're going to make it happen. Talk about the butterfly effect. It's going to be like Rodin. Abba says, Jason is right. When white people are gone, electricity, water, and everything you rely on is gone. Here in South Africa, just few years after all the employees of the sole national electricity supplier has been replaced with non-white engineers and technicians, the country went from being an electricity exporter to darkness. We are now sitting in the dark, and depending on your shedding plan, electricity comes and goes every few hours. Ladies and gentlemen, Abba is a voice from the future. Do you hear that voice? God bless you for that testimony. And my God, we will do everything we can to change that environment for you. Fraulein Dresden, I'm back here listening to this message again. To leave a side note, it's mid-2020, and the aha got you moment of anti-whiteism is being surpassed by, quote, yes, yes, we are, and we are proud of being anti-white and stand tall on anti-whiteism, close quote. What I'm trying to say is that these folks don't care if we challenge them with these terms and ideas. They hate Western kind and Westmen and wear the anti-whiteism like a badge of honor. So now what? Great question, Fraulein Dresden. And I wrote back to Fraulein with this. That, my dear, is exactly what we want them to say. What they do, when they do, not a single ordinary white person, hundreds of millions of us, will tolerate them for another second. Remember, they have been using the myths of pretexts for a reason. Moralization, intellectualization, sentimentalization, to arrive at those anti-white conclusions. They have been using the myths of pretexts for a reason. And I will tack on to that reason is that all of those hundreds of millions of white people all around the world with normal sensibilities, ordinary sensibilities, those white people, when those pretexts are removed and the anti-whites say, it's just you, doesn't matter, we're not going to give you an excuse anymore. And by the way, they'll go back to giving excuses, just like they're trying to reclaim the anti-white slur racist. They'll go back to giving excuses again, and we're not going to fall for it anymore, because now we're going to be inoculated with the MC the miss of pretexts. As soon as they start saying that openly, then what you see today as this dearth of a white resistance will be gone in the flash of an eye. Suddenly, every white person will come forward to defend themselves, or aside from those who are absolutely, broken, defunct people who are just that, there's nothing, defective misfits. And you always are going to have those kind of people, dregs of society. They obviously are going to remain anti-white, but all of those tens of millions, depending on the country you're in, will step forward and say, enough is enough. We're not going to tolerate that for another second. Thank you for the question. Looks like Catherine writes here, what I don't get is if we're not supposed to get away from our abusers, how exactly are we supposed to go free? So it sounds like what Catherine is writing here is get away means she must have been thinking that my position is maybe she's thinking don't move away and start another country. Or let me read on. Even some from other races are starting to talk about segregation and going free from our culture, just like we want to go free from theirs and from our oppressors. Let me stop right there. Hogwash. Anti-whites are not going anywhere. They have always been talking about you would always been able to find anti-whites who have been talking about some sort of separation. And there have been periods where, and I don't blame you, you don't have the history that I have. There have been periods in the white positive sphere when leaders, thought leaders, organizational leaders decided, hey, we need to join up with leaders of non-white groups who think we should have some sort of separation, and by somehow doing, we'll create some sort of synergy. That's like getting together with AIDS. You're not going to survive entities who rely on, I can't use the word on YouTube, who rely on their connection to us for their lifestyles, for their electricity, for their water, for their healthcare, for their everything. These people are children, not in these particular groups who are saying these things are essentially the neoteny has followed them into adulthood. And so they're thinking like children in their claims, just like we see in some of the spheres in our community where people think like children and they say, well, we just need to go start a new country somewhere. We need to go draw some lines on a map or appeal to the better interests of the anti-whites because they know they want to be separated as well. You're projecting onto them what's inside of you. And that is an enormous error in Western kind. We even project ourselves. I've seen people have sympathy for inanimate, white people only, have sympathy for inanimate objects. So this is a problem that we have that is born out of one of our great strengths. We need to be aware that we have this as a weakness inside of us. No non-white, anti-white group is going to surrender all of the wealth, all of the privileges, all of everything that accrues to them. In fact, they will make claims, but that's called lip service. It's very easy for someone to say, we really need to get out and then go back to get into their Ford or go back to get in, drive back to their home in the suburbs or whatever it might be that was powered by electricity and running water. It's very easy to pay lip service to that sort of thing. So these have been around for a long time. People in the white positive sphere had tried, met with them, gave speeches at their meetings, and you can't form any sort of synergy with something that is ultimately destructive to us. They have no more, and also they have no more power. It's also like, not just because AIDS actually has power. So this is not even correct to say, forming an alliance with AIDS. It's more like, metaphorically, it's more like, claiming or to form an alliance with with an alternator in your car that has burnt up and doesn't supply power to your battery anymore. These things have no power. They have no strength, these groups. They have no more power to separate their 20 members or 100 members or whatever it might be. No more power to separate and carve off any part of the anti-whites holding than you do or than we do. All you'll end up doing is identifying yourself with all of the violent rhetoric that they have used, or with all of the other anti-white rhetoric that they have used, and you'll be pigeonholed inside the anti-white narrative with them by the anti-whites, and you won't have a hope in hell. Let me see what else she says. She writes, we need our own spaces, and that's the only way we can hope to preserve any remnant of our own culture. Not true. And I hope that you'll continue going free. And let me tell you, if that were true, then it's lost. You're not going to create your own space. We can, if we live someplace where we can invite other people who are going free to live around us, and we can have our own little community, or we could all say, a group of you could move to a place, or a group of people in a city block or suburban or exurban area could all start going free. That's what we want across the West. You all could have, get-togethers and rear your children together, all going free, and have it normalized. That's what we want. That's how we're going to preserve who and what we are. We are not going to be reclaiming any sort of power to be able to tell the anti-white governments of the world, of the West, we're just going to carve this off, and if we can't, then we're dead. It's not going to happen, and there is no alliance, especially with other groups who also have no power. It's like forming power with an alliance with the dead. You have more chance to gain more, ground by going to the cemetery and allying yourself with everybody there. Thank you for the question, Catherine. Though I understand where it comes from. It's an old belief. It's got a lot of momentum to it, and you just have to see that era of thinking that we could go to a place and vote and et cetera, or have some sort of power. That's so long ago. It's ashes, but it's just been preserved by people who don't know better. So you need to start going free. We need to have this brand new approach to going free that is protean in its nature. Paul says, Jason, you keep saying that I have to go free, but I already have no white guilt. I never have had white guilt. I've rejected the entire anti-white narrative my entire life and spent years telling anyone in my circles, my opinions on the fall of the West. So what does it mean to go free if you already don't buy into a single syllable of their anti-white BS and never have? Here's my answer to that, ladies and gentlemen, and I think I'll be concluding on that, and that is this. I'll take a quick look at if there's any financial gifts. I write back to Paul, you never believed anything your elders told you about the world? Or are you suggesting that every one of your elders and all other adults in your life also never believed anything from the anti-white narrative? Nothing that undermines or weakens Western kind at all? You may be advanced relative to most, but if you don't see any MPs in you, mean pathogens in you, it is because you are blind to them, Paul. If you look hard enough, you will find them. I have confidence you have the ability to dig them out of you. In fact, the belief that the West will inevitably fall is an MP, Paul, that you just stated. Drop the arrogance and get to work going free. I've heard this a handful of times over the years. People say, I don't have an ounce of white guilt. I've never believed anything they've said. Well, that's impossible, because your elders and adults, all that you've come in contact with, and all of theirs would also have to have not believed anything that the anti-whites have ever said. And that is absolute bravo Sierra, that is the case. And in fact, you state an MP in your statement here, the inevitable fall of the West. That is an MP. Let me check out. Okay, looks like entropy is blank. I'll take a quick look over here. We need to be humble, like the lady, what is it, Looking at Art, or Art is Life, or something like this was her name. We need to be humble like her and others who have come forward and say that we make mistakes. We have all been infected by anti-whiteism. It's impossible not to. When you are an infant, before you can form coherent sentences, you saw cartoons that were infecting you with anti-whiteism. When you got a little older and you first began not being able to form coherent thoughts or measure the things around you, to weigh A against Z, to juxtapose concepts, you were given concepts about the world by the teachers in your life, by the news and entertainment television, by the parents and grandparents and cousins and brothers and sisters, all who before you were infected with mean pathogens, and they perpetuated them to you. They promulgated them to you. So they form in us as inextricable parts of our identity. And the older they are, the earlier in our life that we were infected with the mean pathogens, the more inextricable they are. A new mean pathogen like cancel culture is something that you can easily treat yourself for and then inoculate yourself for when it comes to the future. Those MPs you learned in childhood, those are going to be with you for life. The only thing you can do is to form counter triggers, and we teach you how to do that in Going Free. They will reside in your subconscious mind for the rest of your life, because just as you can't delete from your subconscious mind how to drive a car or how to ride a bicycle or anything else you learned that was fundamentally easy to adopt and then carry out in your youth, just as you can't delete that from your memory, you cannot delete those MPs. They are part of who and what you are. And all that this really means, Paul, is that you don't understand what an MP is. And so you need, instead of being arrogant and saying you've got it all figured out, you need to realize that you've been harmed like the rest of us, and you need to get into Going Free. You need to study along with the rest of us, and you will find indeed that you are as infected as every single other person has been infected. Maybe you are you're purblind. You already are ahead of the average person. Maybe once you start Going Free, you will skyrocket through it and heal much more quickly. But it is nonetheless a lifelong process. There is no gone free in the world. You have to continually go free for all of your days, or you are, remember, in all of human endeavors, ladies and gentlemen, in all of them, there is no stagnation. You are only going forward, or you are falling backward. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go free.